Yeah, so that was not Lilo and Stitch. I think the big irony about this movie is that it had good things going for it. The actress playing Lilo was really good. The rendering they did for Stitch, he looked great. The big thing is how much was missing from this movie. Most of the characters were really botched just because of missing defining character traits or like little plot lines. It felt like it had little ingredients of potential, but then just tons and tons of stuff missing. For one thing, where was Jumba's accent? He kind of just sounded like a nerd. And then, not only that, Jumba and Pleakley were essentially gone for most of this movie, because instead of like actually animating them, they were replaced by their voice actors, and it completely took the immersion out for me, just watching Zach Galifianakis in a movie and being like, that's Jumba. And he, in the original, he was a big brooding force. He was a very comedic character. He had a redemption thing of going from mad scientist kind of villain kind of guy into being a good guy. And in this movie, it's just Zach Galifianakis. And it's like, what is the point of making $1 billion on Avengers movies if Disney can't even afford to animate 2 characters in Lilo and Stitch? Like, what is the fucking point of buying all these film studios, killing Blue Sky Animation, purchasing Warner Brothers, making $1 billion off of Spider-Man if you can't even afford to animate Jumba and Pleakley? Pleakley, also, Jumba is missing his accent. Pleakley is missing the whole cross-dressing thing, their whole identity of how they interact with human fashion and like what they're interested in, presenting this kind of comedic thing of them latching on to women fashion and stuff like that, with their fascination with humans, showing them get attacked by mosquitoes because they have a fundamental ironic misunderstanding of human stuff. And also, where was Ving Rhames? For instance, Cobra Bubbles originally was voiced by Ving Rhames. He was even pretty much drawn to look like Ving Rhames. That guy is still alive. Why was he not playing Cobra Bubbles? And also, like, his character arc in general. In the original movie, like, I was a child, but I was also smart enough to be able to handle the idea of a plot twist. The whole thing that he was a intimidating social worker that felt like a looming existential threat that Lilo was going to be taken away because of her bad behavior was a very real feeling in the original movie. The original movie, a lot of the existentialism of the threats, where you had Jumba and Pleakley, you had Gantu, and you had Cobra Bubbles all at once. But in the original, Mr. Bubbles was the social worker, and then at the end, it's a big plot twist that he is in the CIA, and that he actually knows the alien empress. And like, for instance, at the end of the movie, originally, the reason Stitch gets to stay is because they bought him, they adopted him, they had the paperwork, it was the whole gag, hey, we paid $5 for Stitch. In this movie, even, they arbitrarily took away the scene of Nani allowing Lilo to be an adult and be like a big girl and hand the money over to adopt Stitch. The movie had originally all these themes of Lilo acting older than she is and being very bossy with Nani in public and stuff like that. That was largely missed from this movie. And similarly, they like de-weirdified Lilo for some reason. They kind of like super dulled down Lilo's character. The actress was fantastic. She was really good. But in the original movie, it wasn't just that Lilo was like misbehaved, and it wasn't just that Lilo was a loner. It was also that she was like weird. But like in a very endearing way. She would talk about how she brings a sandwich to the ocean because she believes that a specific fish controls the weather. She had her stuffed animal Punch, which was essentially her only friend. That was missing from this movie. For instance, one of the big conflicts Lilo had with Stitch was when he tried to eat that stuffed animal and it drove her crazy. That wasn't in here. And that was, showing that he's threatening something significant to her. Also, she had like a fascination with the tourists coming to Hawaii, which also introduced a level of like anti-tourism, anti-colonialism kind of stuff in Hawaii, having this sort of otherness between being Hawaiian and the people coming in as tourists, and her fascination with all the people on the beaches and her little photo collection she had on the wall because of her interest in them. That was completely gone from the movie. And it was really more so just written off as like a little one-off joke of her being in a hot tub in the beginning and them being like, what are you doing here hanging out with the tourists, you know? Thinking about it now too, they never even had a scene where Lilo talked about Elvis being her favorite musician, or the scene where they dressed up Stitch as Elvis. The thing is like, Lilo had a very defined personality in the original movie. She was very confident, and all of her special interests really defined her as a character. And in this movie, like, if you asked a kid any defining features of Lilo, they would probably just say like, oh, she's sad, she's lonely, sad things happen to her. But if you asked a kid like about the new movie, who's her favorite musician or what are the things she's into, they would just be like, she's a little girl, she's friends with Stitch. They never even had a scene where Stitch shows her his alien form. That is such a big thing in the original movie, that Stitch reveals his alien form to the family. He like shows that he has extra arms and shit. They don't oh my god, they never even did a scene where he rolls around in a ball. He never does the like little rolling armadillo cannonball thing. How did they forget like every iconic thing about this movie? Also, like, the emotional moments from this movie to me were largely missing because of the pacing. The pacing of this movie is like so insanely breakneck. Like, it is just go, go, go. The movie just starts and it's immediately in the alien council meeting, and like a few minutes later it's over. Like, it's just so fast. Like, it feels like there's just no breathing room at all for the sad moments, and even like some of the big intimidating epic moments like the alien council meeting. It felt like any amount of a lull between lines or events were just like cutting room floor. Like, it felt like they were just rushing through this movie and just trying to get from compilation of scene from next to the next. For instance, like, as a kid, I remember a big major pacing thing with this movie that I loved is, you know, Nani, she doesn't really like Stitch. She's having such a difficult time with him, but there's this beautiful, amazing scene where her and Lilo and Stitch, they decide to go surfing with David. And it's like this really happy montage of all of them having fun together. It's like a really well-spent time at the beach. Stitch is afraid of the ocean, and Nani is the one who kind of convinces him to get on a surfboard. And there's like these really cute shots of him being shy and afraid of the water. And then tragedy strikes when they almost drown together, and then they're like, oh, Stitch, you ruined the whole thing. In this version of the movie, that whole thing happens so fast that I did not at all feel like the happy emotions of watching them have the best day ever. And I didn't really feel the sad emotions of them being in peril, of Lilo almost drowning. And also, like, for the ugly duckling story, that was missing. It was a really big, major, emotional, thematic beat in the original movie that Lilo has this fascination with the tale of the ugly duckling and how they're an outcast and how nobody wants them and how they're broken and how she feels that way. And Stitch, similarly, he connects with it and he feels like the ugly duckling. And there's like such a cute scene of him being fascinated with real life ducks. And later they show him waddling away through the forest and he willingly goes with Jumba in a really sad scene because he's like, I'm the ugly duckling. And also, they got rid of Gantu completely, and they just kind of fucked up the antagonist conflict of this movie, where Jumba now is kind of just a villain. He's kind of just an asshole. He doesn't have any redeeming adult to adult conversations with Nani like he does in the original, when he's kind of concerned alongside her that Lilo is missing. The existential threat of Gantu being the even more bigger, badder villain guy who especially wants Stitch gone, that's missing from the movie. And Cobra Bubbles, since they got rid of the whole plot twist element of him going from social worker to CIA agent, he's kind of just around in this movie. He doesn't really feel like that big of a threat, that intimidating, because like, you're not really worried about him in a legitimate way as a social worker, taking Lilo away from the family. And then as far as his ability to track down Stitch, he's not really doing shit the whole movie. He's just kind of happens to be there, as well as the other characters happening to be there. And Jumba and Pleakley are really bad at their job, you know, but in this version of it, not really for any particular reason. They're just more so bumbling antagonists, while in the original, they're like essentially like a race against Gantu to get Stitch, and Pleakley and their misunderstandings of Earthling culture is getting in the way all the time. The pacing of this movie is way too fast. Most of the major character elements are completely gone. They didn't even animate Jumba and Pleakley. They are sort of acting like kids are too dumb to handle a plot twist. They completely removed the main antagonist threat of the entire movie. The best things I can say about it is the house looked really good. The actresses for Lilo and Nani were really good. Stitch looked great. The Empress, I thought, looked really good. The designs for Jumba and Pleakley were kind of ugly. Like, Jumba was good execution, but they kind of made him too ugly. And Pleakley, he just looks wrong. He just looks wrong. The soundtrack was good. They did play Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride. They did play Burning Love at the end, even if it's like a less powerful version of the song. But also, like, yeah, no, they kind of just dulled everything down. I mean, hell, even like Lilo, instead of like scrapping with Myrtle, and Myrtle being like a big legitimate villain, she just kind of pushes her, and Myrtle is only kind of lightly an asshole. It just really felt like it just doesn't feel like the original oomph of the movie is here at all. It feels like a high budget fan film at best, you know? So I don't know. I really hope they kind of just like stop making these live actions for the most part. And it's very clear that they're setting up this movie to like have sequels. It's very clear they're not having Jumba have his normal arc so he can continue to be a villain in a sequel. And they do a whole thing with Experiment 627, and they're able to run Leroy and spin this out as long as they want. It's very obvious that's what they're doing. But like, they just need to go back to making good original movies, man. Like, when Lilo and Stitch originally came out, it was so good and so original. Like, whoever would have thought that, like, in the early 2000s, we'd be going from princess movies to this transcendent movie of, like, an alien in Hawaii with a banger soundtrack about family, you know? And they haven't really been able to deliver anything like that. Pixar is amazing. I still love Pixar, but Pixar and Disney are not the same thing. Disney just owns Pixar. A lot of people get that wrong. And Pixar is still able to make good original new stories like Luca and Coco. But yeah, Disney needs to stop with this live action shit, because they just are not even... It's like one thing to get the art kind of wrong, but then to not even be faithful to your characters and themes in a movie that like is essentially handing them to you on a silver platter, and you're not even animating your own characters, even though you're making billions of dollars off of Spider-Man movies. It's like, after a while, it's like, I fail to see the point. But it was fun going to the movies and eating popcorn and looking at some of these characters, and at the end of the day, for companies like Disney, that's like all they really need from us. So GG Disney, you got my money. But yeah, anyways, see you on the next one.